Pad Project family, shut your f***ing mouth, please. Now, I don't really mean that, but what I mean is you need to shut your mouth when you're asleep. A lot of you guys and gals snore, and that's why we've been talking about mouth tape literally for years now. We used to use 3M micropore tape because it's super duper cheap, but the problem with this type of tape is when you're sleeping, it comes off your mouth, it doesn't stay on, you have to use multiple strips. If you have facial hair, it doesn't stick. That's why we have partnered with Hostage Tape. Now, with Hostage Tape, the really cool thing about it is that it stays on your mouth when you're asleep. It stretches, there's no residue that's left, it's super comfortable, and when you wake up, you take it off, throw it in the trash, and use a new one the next day. Andrew, how can they get their hands on some Hostage Tape?
Yes, you guys got to head over to hostagetape.com/powerproject. And when you go there, you guys are going to receive free shipping plus a free bedside tin that Nsima was just playing with the other. Oh, look, now he's putting on more mouth tape. How are we going to finish this ad? Anyways, links to them down in the description. Again, that's at hostagetape.com/powerproject.
Sorry, I thought you were joking for a second. You were joking, right? Okay.
Come on.
I need a little hello.
Gotta tone down the sarcasm, guys.
So Andrew, all mics good? Everybody
good?
We're wearing
Yeah,
these things
I think
right
everything's
now.
good.
A little better.
Yeah.
Hey. Yeah, I had to go handheld, but we're all good.
Hey now. Ooh. You got handheld over there?
I have a handheld. I didn't get hand-holded. But maybe if I'm lucky by the end of the podcast.
Let me see what we got going on with these glasses here.
You see how
how bad his vision might be?
bad my vision is.
Is it okay?
I'm probably going to see crystal clear. Oh my God, I could read.
You have
gonna
little
see
ear
shit
things
that-
behind you.
Be prepared.
Yeah.
Be prepared.
Those aren't glasses.
I put those on and it's a completely different view.
I bet. It's like They Live, the movie They Live.
Oh, yes.
Remember that movie? Yeah. it's
Rowdy
all-
Roddy said that that's actually a documentary.
Yeah, all the aliens that he could see as soon as he put the glasses on.
Right.
Wait up. Are we on? I'm trying to fuck up my taste buds real quick. So, Mark, you've been using this a bit.
Yeah, some ketones, ketone IQ. Yeah, give it a shot. See
How
what
you
you
been
think.
liking it?
A shit.
I'm just curious because I haven't had it yet until
I don't
today.
think your microphone works.
Yeah, you know.
No, I don't hear it.
See?
It ain't working in my earphones.
That's why I told Andrew. I'm like, Andrew, you sure you tested out my mic? Because he'll do this to me on purpose. He won't put my mic on.
I hear you just fine.
You hear me just fine?
So
Right?
I think I know what's going on. It's the headphones that they don't hear you. So
Okay, so
it's
that's
going to take
fine.
me a second.
okay.
But
Okay.
you're all
I'm just
good.
gonna-
Everyone hears you except everyone else in the room.
Oh, I see.
Right, we can't hear.
1 second.
This stuff tastes
I'll go
horrible.
one ear in and 1 ear off.
This stuff tastes horrible, dude.
Yeah, it does. It does taste gross.
How about some of that kratom?
It's not as bad. It doesn't taste as bad as mine bowl. We got some kratom right here, and we got some kratom right here.
Chris wouldn't let me take kratom.
Good.
Oh, good reason. You're the first person.
I ordered some for both of us and I didn't let him have it.
I was like, yeah, you ordered 20, give me 10. Here's the 100 and
You're like,
whatever.
I don't think David needs to be amped up any further.
And literally, he's like, nope, I'm not giving you the kratom.
So, David, you had something wrong with your elbow. You had some sort of, I think, a surgery or something like that, and your tricep atrophied and some things like that, right?
Yeah, total.
That was impressive.
From a long ass time ago.
Long time. Yep, 16. Well, I was 16. 52. Right
And
now.
then my boy Chris over here took a look at it, and he seemed to be able to give you some help right away.
Oh, yeah.
What do we got going on? What happened, Chris? What do you think?
So we had a pretty bad tear in there, and obviously they tried the best to repair it surgically, which a lot of times, and you know, we even covered it on the last podcast, is you tear something, you're not going to foam roll that out. Okay, you really need to go and get it repaired. And then we can start talking about relaxing the tissue and making sure that it gets restored correctly, which is a lot of what PT kind of is leaving on the table for guys like me. So when we look at the human body, we have these tensegrity
I'm hoping
principles.
right now that Chris touches me. He's standing
I
right
am.
next to me, and he's amazing.
It's going to be
at what he
sensual.
does.
Very sensual.
So I'm like, I hope he touches my trap. It's going to feel so good.
So we look at the body from a tensegrity perspective, right? Where we have equal amounts of tension, not just side to side, but also north and south. So when that tricep lets go, okay, the trap is now unimpeded in the amount of tension that it can produce. So
That's nice.
nothing is really calibrating along that line very well. Okay, the trap just takes control because there's nothing that's resisting.
It gets kind of
it.
stuck, huh?
Yep. So
Yeah,
what
like pulls it
Exactly. This is our fascial system. This is the architecture of the human body. This is what moves us and what shapes us. When people will look at the bone and the muscle and the nerve and say that that's more important, or the brain, that's more important. Okay, so the fascia gets stuck and there's nothing that's really resisting its angle of pull anymore. So when David told me that he had a tear there, and then the next thing he says, he goes, yeah, I just have an ever-present knot in my trap. I said, I'm sure you do. And a little bit of targeted pressure in different orientations. Why? Because our body holds itself, the fascia will orient itself in a different way in different positions. So when you're laying down, the fascia really isn't working against gravity that much, so we can get in deeper in some areas. Now, when we lay on our side, one area of the body is being propped up and the other side is not. So we can work on it a little bit differently in that respect. And then we have him sit down and I get the elbow directly down in there. He didn't like that too much either.
No, I loved it.
And then he loved it. And
I did. Delicious discomfort.
Yes, there you go. That's amazing. I've never heard that before.
That's great.
So then I taught him how to do it himself up against the power rack, like when I was showing you and Chris. And that's all it comes down to, is just recognizing really what's mechanistically true in the human body. And it's not that his tricep is ever going to be restored and be full like it normally should. But what we're going to do is we're going to stop the dysfunction, and we're going to stop the pain. And you said deliciously discomfort, but you know, I'm very much a promoter that you don't even need to be in that state at all.
Oh yeah.
You know, you can get to the point where it's 1, 2, 3. You know that it's kind of still there. It's operating in the background, but it's not going to cause any serious problems moving forward.
Another way to say it is you got to go through hell before you get to heaven.
Right? And what?
So when you're pushing and it's hurting, there's light at the end of that tunnel that's bright and worth it.
There is. Absolutely.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
What we find in modern medicine is that, and even in massage therapy, is that there's this, we want to stay away from pain or more discomfort when we're trying to get better. You know, so you get the people doing stuff like this to the arm, and it's like, well, yeah, that feels better, and maybe it might be taking a little bit of my stress away.
Heavy petting.
Yeah, heavy petting, but we're not really changing the structure at all.
Right.
And then you might get some people who see, oh, Mark's, he's this big guy, right? So I got to get in there and drive my elbow and just mash that tissue, right? And what we find is that there's this very thin line between the fascia understanding that it's either getting better or incurring another injury.
Let's talk about this for a moment. And I want to get everyone's thoughts here on some of this. I think today, you know, we should focus a lot on pain, what happens when you get out of pain, because I think sometimes there's like pains, there's like little things that we have that we just accept and we're like, this is normal, like I'm supposed to feel this way. And then those things, sometimes when they're left in the past, you're able to move so much better. So I think we should talk about movement as it pertains to sport, as it pertains to like running, gait cycle type thing, and just like managing pain. But the question here is, what do you guys think happens sometimes when we get an injury, when something hurts, and then we make it past that injury where we're like somehow better off than we ever were before? Did we like, is it possible to like knock something loose or, you know, knock the fascia loose or something like that? So what do you got, David?
I got a story. For 30 years after football, my shoulder hurt. And because it was separate or dislocated so many times that I think the theory that I have is that the long head of the biceps sort of almost became a dead tendon because it was just, you know, so much damage incurred. So I had like shoulder pain that it was constant, like, you know, irritant, not preventing me from doing many things, but just an irritant. And I was shadowboxing and I threw a punch and the long head of the biceps tore off. And so you can see like the golf ball of how it rolled in on itself. It was like, boom, snap. Oh, my shoulder. My shoulder doesn't hurt. And that's why I didn't repair it. Because the damage sort of fixed a problem that had lingered from previous damage. And then the mitigation of this new damage was a hassle and it hurt, but I'm through it now. So functionally speaking, I've lost nothing that I care about. Maybe my, maybe my front raise would be less, but I can still carry the baby to the, to the changing table. So that's an example.
Yeah, I've had some things that happen like this before, and I should have maybe said something slightly different than like injured, but like I guess more like a tweak, like something small. Like I've had a bunch of things that have happened over the years that have been small, and I've come out the other end like finding, oh shit, I actually moved better now. Like I don't know what I did or how that happened, but I feel like I moved better. And sometimes I've noticed a strength increase. Chris, what do you think might happen with stuff like that? And is this like, should we be, I guess, more optimistic when we get injured? Maybe like, oh, maybe this will pay off someday.
I have an article that I wrote that I never published, and it's aptly titled, "What Really Happens When You're Doing Mobility Work." Okay. And it's a theory that I developed off of a gentleman by the name of Ilya Prigogine. He was a Nobel Prize winner back, I think, in the 1920s or 1940s, somewhere around there. He was doing experiments on thermodynamics, and he found out that what ends up happening is chaos turns into order, which then turns into more chaos, which then turns into order. And he was particularly talking about gas molecules. Okay, so if we have a room and we only have 2 gas molecules floating around, not too much chaos, right? If you add another, you might get a little bit more. If you start to add, maybe 10 million molecules, now all of a sudden you got a shit ton of chaos in there, right? They're bouncing off of each other going, you can't predict anything. So it comes down to what we call open and closed systems. A closed system is something like a brick. You smash a brick, it's not repairing itself, okay? The human organism is what we call an open system. It continuously remodels from chaos to order to chaos to order. So we're in order. He hurts his shoulder. You said playing football. Now it's in chaos. The body is tasked now with remodeling that back into order. Okay? He throws a punch and the body says, you know what? This is the perfect time to let this go.
What an opportunity we got here.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay?
Yeah.
And it remodels from chaos back into order. Okay? And this is what we are doing when we're doing some type of foam rolling or soft tissue release, or we're consistently seeing a manual therapist, is we're taking this organism that's out of order, okay? The introduction of the pressure is not more order, it's more chaos, because the body's what I call functioning in dysfunction.
And it will sometimes hurt so bad that it will feel chaotic, like where you feel like you can't breathe and all kinds of things can happen.
Yeah. Or something, literally just snaps or separates. And a majority of the people that come into my practice, I ask them, I go, how long did your knee hurt before that MCL let go? Oh, like 6 months. Okay. And what I tell them is it's probably been about 10 years that your body was dealing with some sort of pain or instability in that knee before the pain developed. And then it decided to say, you know what? I'm not doing any more of this. And I was talking to Graham, the barefoot sprinter out in the gym just a minute ago. And he goes, what's your definition of pain? And I said, well, I'm going to steal one from Thomas Myers here. Pain is the body's intent to withdraw. So if I put my hand on a hot stove, am I going to sit there and think like, wait a minute, is this hot or not? You hit that hot stove and before you know it, right, that's coming, that hand's coming back. You step on something that's sharp and that foot's going somewhere else immediately. You don't even have to think about it, okay? So what your body is consistently trying to tell you with these little alarms, these little painful areas, I have a problem and I need you to withdraw from doing that activity. If it's a knee problem, we have pain somewhere in the adductor, maybe even the hip flexor, the quad, the IT band, and the hamstring. The leg's a cylinder, and all of that muscle tissue has nerves running in it, particularly, I believe, the obturator and the saphenous run into the patella tendon. If we get an occlusion, if we get compression or a knot, or we get some sort of a trigger point somewhere in that tissue near the nerve, all that's going to do is send it right into the knee to get you to withdraw from doing that activity. But what we do what medicine does is they look at the knee and they say, obviously the knee has to be the problem.
Right.
And it's the symptom. So when we work on the problem, we get the symptom to go away. And then what we're looking at is the body probably created a lot more problems, either upstream or downstream from where that was. So now we have to kind of do our seek and destroy thing and find out where the next piece of chaos lies. So it's chaos to order, to chaos, to order, to chaos, to order. And in my back pain Bible, I show people, this is your true line to ascending health. And it goes, you get better, you get a little bit of something weird going on. You get better, you get a little bit something weird going on. You get better and you get something weird going on. And
That's exactly how I refer to it. I said something weird happened.
yeah. Yeah. And all that is your body saying, wait a minute, slow down. I'm trying to figure this out. I need to move a whole bunch of stuff around in the body so we can become orderly again. And then when that order becomes present, we feel better, we move better, we're doing, maybe I haven't done, overhead squats in like months. Now I feel like I can actually do them. So I go and do them. And the body says, wait a minute, I haven't been able to do this. So we feel a little bit of irritation for a couple of weeks, but then all of a sudden we don't have the pain. So the pain used to be an 8 or a 9. The irritation is maybe like a 2 to a 4, something like that. We do a little bit of more work on ourselves. We open up areas in the fascia, so things are being distributed. We can breathe better, okay? The tissue can breathe better. And then we go do the overhead squats again, and maybe we don't even get that pain or irritation. Okay, we knock that out, right? So that's the way that I see. I have no scientific studies behind it, but I've worked on, probably 25,000 hours on the table, and happens every time.
What you got on this, Chris? What are you thinking
so
about?
that's something I actually
Chris
love.
Chamberlin.
He set this up. I like this. So I actually haven't had like very many injuries, and I totally know what you're talking about though, like a tweak or something. Something you feel like something shifted, and maybe you felt a little bit for a couple days or something, but like, man, I feel stronger now. And I noticed this actually when I've had like periods of like, I'm totally focused on something and a movement practice is not something that I'm in. And what I sort of feel like it is for me, based on everything that we've sort of worked on at Weck Method, is I'll get stuck in the center a lot of the time. And this shift or tweak I get is usually my body, I feel like shifting into like structural integrity, something that feels like it actually went where it should have gone and it gave into where it should have been, but it did it in an abrupt manner.
When you said stuck in the center, by the way, what did you mean?
So what I mean by that is like, I have found, we teach rotational principles and we sort of define, we have our definition of that, whatever, but we do a lot of side bending. We'll put it at that, right? And then a lot of like moving from side bend to side bend, okay? What I found in a lot of my practice, or if I'm sitting in front of a computer all the time, is I'm stuck in the center. And when I get back to my business, I'll pick up a lot of the traditional lifts. I'm going to do push-ups. That's the place I would start a lot. I'll hit bench press. I'll hit squats. I'll hit deadlifts. And I'm in the center a lot. And then I'm going to decide I'm going to do a single arm carry for the first time in 2 years or something like that. And I'm going to go stupid heavy because I feel like I'm strong right now. And it shifts me into that position. But it didn't before maybe I was ready to accept that position. But it was the most efficient way to move in that. And we were talking earlier, I always bring it up. I used to carry plywood all the time, and plywood forces you into a position like that. And it's the appropriate position to be in. You give into it, right? And if you've been out of it, and I just automatically shift into it and I'm not ready for it, I get the little tweak. But ultimately, my body had a basis before it that it probably was a stronger position. I feel better.
David and I are thinking right now, how can we make money off plywood?
I know.
Nsima,
Already figured it out.
Nsima, what you got?
Dude, we've been talking about this a lot actually, but there's this guy who came in, his name's Tyler, and he tweaked his lower back recently. I tweaked my lower back a few weeks ago too. And one thing we were talking about is, what is a way where you can train yourself to, obviously when you're doing a deadlift, you need a hip hinge down to the bar. When you're doing a squat, you need a hip hinge down. But when you're picking something off the ground, you shouldn't need to feel that. You need to look at that thing and hip hinge down to pick it up. But what you see is a lot of individuals who do strength training, they're not used to bending at the back to go down and pick something up. That's actually, for them, it's not comfortable. There's inhibition because it's so tight. So everything they do, they hip hinge, they hip hinge, they hip hinge. And then once there's a little bit of something in the lower back, and let's say it's movement under load, or they go and they pick something up and they round their back, they tweak something. So back to the pain aspect of things, if you can get yourself to do things like, you should be able to pick something off the ground and back bend to do it without any pain, right? And if you can just train those patterns without having inhibition with it. So initially, let's say you think about it, then you go and you pick it up with a rounded back. But over time, it becomes something that's more so instinctual. That could be something that can help an individual get out of chronic pain when bending or when trying to do something with the barbell. Because again, everything ends up being so stiff.
I got some of this. So I want to go back to chaos and order a little bit, because for me, I feel like the human being, we don't actually have a lot of like physical trials that we have to go through. Like we sort of put ourselves into things and behaviors and whatever fitness or movement we want to do just because we love it, but it may not be our prime function or our prime order. And this is where we love to steer things. Dave says fight, flight. We really like to think like walking is a function that is order for a human being. And if we move in a way that promotes order, then there's less chaos. And you guys were asking me, like, do you feel pain? Do you ever feel like you have to bend over? And like, do you feel like you can't do it, or you have to do the thing? And I don't feel that stuff anymore. The more I've put order in my life and taking all of the things that I loved in my training and steered it towards a single purpose.
But when you say order,
Go ahead.
when you what do you mean by order? Because your training, there's more elements than a power lifter would have, right? So someone would look at your training and say that's chaotic. But what do you mean by order?
So my training would appear chaotic because I like to explore a lot of feedbacks. My order is that it's all rooted in like specific core principles. So feeling.
See if you can pull a little bit of that up, Andrew.
Yeah, and basically that means is like anytime you put a new tool in my hand, I'm thinking the exact same thing. That's it. No different. Doesn't matter. It's always going to come back to the same thing. And that's the same thing I think about when I run.
Tell them what that same thing is.
Yeah. So for me,
What's
it's
that
this
same
idea
thing?
of coiling core. So that's a good exercise of it. But this idea of coiling core training or feeling torsion or rotational principles being funneled through my body via my trunk first.
Are these fake weights?
Well, this is
No.
every one of these has been sagittal.
Yeah.
So some days I like to get my my
Right.
on, but this is
There
a
you go.
specific one here. But
I see.
Hey,
yeah.
the
So-
grip bell.
Yeah, I know.
Looks
You
cool.
guys have these. Yeah. And you'll see, so like even like a move like that, like an RDL somebody might do, they would do it more linearly. You kind of see I'm moving through that sort of like corkscrew type effect there. And like even that ham curl, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm
Yes.
taking it across
So
the
what are
body,
these
like-
things you're thinking of when you pick up any tool?
So for me, immediately it's to the trunk. So I believe in two different torsion lines that the body does. One we call it external, one we call it internal. Okay. That's what it is for me. And then the ability to move between those two lines.
Right now, you're moving your chest and your spine and things
Yeah.
like that, but you're talking
so-
about throughout the whole body because the shoulder has that, the hip has that.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, we'll say the trunk is where
That's where you're
that's the thing is my focus.
I see.
The hands, the feet, they are a product of the task. So if I don't need my hands and my feet, then they might just be able to hang out and I could just do like spinal waves or something. But I like to pick things up and maybe I want to pick the thing up and put it up. You know what I mean? So it's going to have to respond, but it's going to start from the trunk for me. And for me, I'll either ride it like two different ways. I'm traditionally, most of my practice, especially when I first met Dave, I steered it all towards bipedal, like forward movement.
Yes.
The more I have evolved in this, the more I've been working with like fighters and grapplers and all this stuff. And just needing to find balance in my life, I've spent more time on the other side of it. So like just picking objects, what that is. And I sort of equate it to swinging. So tool wielding rather than moving with tool type thing.
What happens to people, and it's just kind of open conversation that anybody can kind of answer this one.
Yeah.
So I think, walking, I think we all agree is like a good activity, right? To participate in. It's
movement.
It's movement, right? What happens when we don't have the right order of like how you're kind of quote unquote supposed to walk? What happens there, David?
Let me. Compensation.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have productive tension, you have protective tension, right? Nervous system's going to prioritize protective tension because it's going to keep you breathing. Okay. Keep your heart beating, keep you alive. So if you have imbalance, the task at hand is what you care about. So you're willing to compromise perfection because otherwise you get nothing done, right? And you don't come into this world programmed to move well. Right, I happen to be one of the guys who thinks that not every 2-year-old does move well. We call them toddlers because they toddle around and they round their back when they squat deep. And, I think there's a lot of idealism when we think about these statements that are made in fitness and exercise. The compensation is that Chinese water torture that doesn't hurt you now, it doesn't hurt you tomorrow, it doesn't hurt you the next day.
I'm fine.
And
I walk fine.
I can go get a bud from the fridge and I can grab you one too, right?
I'm not in any pain.
Doorbell rang, I'll go grab the pizza. Okay.
15 years later,
Yeah,
we
right.
have a compensation pattern to develop. We have no idea how.
Right. And what you're saying, which is that it is a systemic, pressurized thing. The skeleton is literally suspended.
It's suspended.
The femur is not crushing down on the tibia, right? Thigh bone and shin bone are not like bang, like bricks. It's this tensional balance that's suspending the guy wires. And that means that a problem in one area can go to any other area. It's a fluid matrix.
Everything's connected.
Everything's connected.
Yeah.
So that's why the TMJ, you had that bruised toe. You broke your toe.
Yep.
And now you're seeing the ear, nose, throat specialist. And neither the podiatrist and the ear, nose, throat specialist, they don't have they don't have each other's number.
Right.
Right? So get back to walking, okay? Because this is something that I couldn't be more passionate about, as you all know. It's the functional activity that is the bridge to all other functional activities. In terms of survival, you got the breathing and the eating and elimination and those things, right? They supersede. But walking is the number one most functional bridge to all things. You walk to the squat rack. You walk to the swimming pool. You walk to the horse riding arena. You walk to the jiu-jitsu mat. You walk.
I've actually seen Mark glide before he levitated.
Yes, well, I taught him ever since he met
I
me.
appreciate that.
Big cat. So if you're the consequence of doing it poorly doesn't matter now. It doesn't matter tomorrow. It doesn't matter for 15 years. So why bother? It's not a high priority, and it's a boring subject for most people. But that's why I think, I view the pro athletes and, the people with, following and stuff, they're the neon sign. And if you can make the best better, it's sort of proof of concept that, yes, they have something valid. But I want to attract and inspire everybody to take note. And I think that that's why this friendship is evolving, because we want to leave a positive mark on the world, right? And if walking could just be in balance where you eliminate, for all intents and purposes, any compensation, well, now you've got the chassis that's going to support all things. And chronic pain is not practically the guarantee. Because if you've been compensating for all this time over that number of reps, that rock is now sculpted. Okay, the water has worked its way through, and there's no rewinding and getting full function back. You're into some adjustment that's going to make the best of the situation as it is now, not as it was to begin with.
And the indicator becomes pain.
And the pain is, now we got to talk about the psychological aspect of this, because we talked about Dr. John Sarno, who's a New York City guy, who basically his hypothesis is that back pain, it's 100% in your head. It's 100% in your head. And it's like, okay, you can fix it by thinking different. Now, true in many cases, probably not true in all cases, right? But it's an interesting perspective, and pain is something that most people fear. But pain is something that when you run from pain, it will always chase you down and it will always corner you. You have to face the force and deal with it.
You can't lie about it.
You can't lie about it, right?
Yep.
And if you run, it'll just chase you further. And that, and just that feeling that the best defense is a good offense, right? And so I used to get very upset when I would get hurt, and I'm rather fragile compared to the real men here. So I would get hurt more often.
Yeah.
And it used to devastate me. But now when I get hurt, I literally view it as an opportunity. How can I make adjustments so that nobody even knows I'm hurt and I'm getting everything done that I wanted to get done? And what did that teach me that what I can do with my body when it's not hurt? So that's literally how I treat it. And a lot of us go to the pain cave as therapy. You're going to live through it.
Dude, let's not lose the train of thought here, but I want to mention exactly what you're talking about right there is what I do to handle all injury. Again, with the back injury that happened recently, every single day, what I would do was see how much can I bend into this without it being catastrophic potentially. And then I notice, okay, I'm bending, my body wants to hold my breath. Let me just try to relax and see how deep I can go into this and just rep it out, bending down, coming up. If I was coming out of my car, the first day I had to fucking come out of my car like this, right? But then I was like, okay, let's redo that. Relax, come out of the car like you normally would, because I had to train my brain to be like, don't be inhibited by this. And each day I would keep leaning in deeper and deeper into what was going on with my lower back. It healed up pretty quickly, but the way I was able to heal up, but was leaning into a comfortable amount of pain. Whereas a lot of people, when it does come to an injury or something that would happen, obviously it depends on the injury, but most people would kind of shy away. Oh, it hurts. Okay, I'm not ready yet. It hurts. I'm not ready yet.
Right.
And that can set in bad patterns in the long run.
Yeah. Andrew, do me a favor. Go to Google and type in the word motility, MOTIL, and then read one of the first definitions that comes up.
Let's see. Motility is a term used to describe the connection of the muscle that mix and propel contents in the GI tract. So yeah, that's functional GI disorders.
Keep on going.
The term function.
It's like that's something that I was looking for.
Okay, my bad. Maybe I spelled it wrong. Motility. No, that's about right. Motility disorders. Hold on. Maybe I looked up the wrong thing. It's mainly about GI stuff. So if that's not
motility, maybe movement.
Okay,
type in something like that.
It's the smooth muscle.
Let's try this again. Motility is defined as the movement of cells by some form of self-propulsion. A little bit better?
A little bit better. In my back pain Bible, since we're being thwarted right now, I talk to people about the difference between motility.
Stay a little closer to the mic.
I talk to people about the difference between motility and mobility. Okay, motility is the freedom of movement without thought. Okay, so you were talking about you drop your keys, and it's like, do I gotta, like, oh God, pull up the pants, and
God, yeah,
get warmed up and get ready to pick something up off the floor.
I want to butt in just for a second. Pretty much anytime you have to think about anything, it's a problem.
Yeah,
like I need to make more money. You're trying to solve a problem. I need to do this. I need to do that. Anytime you got to think about it,
so
something's wrong.
What we're born into motility, and there's two things behind here. I have a almost 4-year-old daughter, and what my job is to not make her conscious. Okay, she was born unconscious, and what do we do as parents? Don't eat that, don't drink that, don't sing, don't do that, get down from there, don't jump. And it's like their whole world is a playground, and they're just having fun. And then you wonder why, kids grow up to hate you as a parent, right? Like, I can't do anything. So when we look at children too, they're born into motility. They're learning how to move, and you either learn how to move well or you learn how to move unwell, right? And a lot of that is being reflected back to you as a child in what your parents are doing.
Mirror neuron.
Right? So Dr. Bruce Lipton, he says, show me the man and I'll show you the child, or show me the child and I'll show you the man. One of those two. He says between the ages of 2 and 7, this is when everything gets imprinted upon us for later on in life. Doesn't matter what it is, how you treat a woman, what you eat, how much you drink, everything like that. So if you as a parent, if you're not moving well and you're having children, they're going to pick up on your movements because their myoneurofacial system and their brain is there to be a sponge and learn. What do I see all the time? And we know anybody who has kids, You could have said a swear word like 10 months ago and stopped. And then all of a sudden your kid starts talking and, you know, it just flies out of their mouth. And you're like, but babe, I swear I haven't said that in like months. Doesn't matter. The kid's been learning for months. You think that they can't hear you, or just because they can't talk yet, that it's not coming out, but that gets stored somewhere. Okay. So that's really when we're talking about, you know, the development of pain, and how David obviously knows, and Chris, I mean, all you guys know, when we are in pain, we've been in pain. And the general public thinks, I know October 10th was the first time I felt back pain. Okay. And when we look at the human body, there's only two types of pain: the pain that you feel and the pain that your brain feels. Okay. And the pain that your brain feels has been running in the background for years. And what does the brain, the fascia and the nerve and the muscle and the bone and the capillaries and the arteries do? And the organs, they just solve problems every day to keep you alive. So now that math problem has gotten so long, right? The body just runs out of answers and says, okay, we just need to sound the alarm. And surely our guy is going to stop squatting or stop running or stop doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And we don't. We're like, this isn't really that big of a deal, right? And then 6 months later, it's chronic. And then 6 months later, we're either looking at drugs, shots, or surgery in order to continue doing what we love to do. So my biggest message to people is, like we just talked about, pain is developing every single day. Either you are getting 1% more in pain by your terrible movement habits, or you're reversing or slowing down that by 0.1% every single day. And it's not cool to have an upright posture, right? It's not cool to be doing the things that you're doing or running head over toe, right? But we see that the best athletes have done it and are still doing it, but nobody's out there teaching that. So we blow with the wind, do whatever that we want. We sit however we want. We act however we want. And then 10 years later, 15 years later, it's like, man, I got to get surgery for this.
What's bad movement? Like, can we, sorry, you have another point?
Movement that forces a biomechanical compensation is bad movement.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if
so, like, let's just say somebody walks and their foot is pointed way out to the side, and then their kid walks the same way. Would you say, like, if they don't they don't run into a problem, is it not a problem?
I think the example that I would say that the example that you're using could have a structural origin that is out of anyone's control. So it is good movement given the circumstances.
That's all they got.
Okay, right. You make the best of what you got, right? So in that sense, right? And not hurt, plays forever, one of the best in the world. All right, what are we talking about here? Right? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, he's doing just fine, and I got a theory about why, if I'm the king, then I ain't got to protect the stones.
Just let my nuts
There you go, baby. I'm open up. If I'm the king, right? I ain't all like,
the old pigeon toed.
Yeah, all crafty, right? Coming after the king. But
so if you're not running into like an injury,
but bad movement is movement that forces the brain to engage protective, not productive, compensatory tension to deal with the fact that you ain't moving well. Yeah. Right? Now, if your leg is bent or whatever and you've got something structural, well, you could be doing the best that you possibly can with that, because there's a lot of roads in. Mm-hmm. So I'm reading Jack Dempsey's book on boxing, which is fascinating. Oh, Jack Dempsey. There's so many jewels and counterintuitive information that rounds out your true understanding and the knowledge of it. And the pictures that are drawn, illustrations in this book, they had to be drawn from seeing the human being in that position, because the artist would never create what you're seeing. Mm. And it looks odd and peculiar, but when you start to understand movement the way that we're uncovered and understand it, you see the tensional balance in the position. And it's just a tensional balance, and it's three-dimensional, and it's changing moment to moment. And so what we wanted, I prioritize the bones. when I got the flu some years back, it was a massive opportunity for me to operate this thing as a bag of bones with not an ounce of muscle because I ain't got it, but go up the stairs without being exhausted. And if you have the jujitsu mindset, so we're going to slow this down. We're going to invest in the loss right now because we're here to learn and do it better. And everybody's always in too much of a hurry. That's your number one problem when you start out is you go into step 2 before you got step 1. And we all do it. Every one of us, right? But what you're talking about, I mean, getting back to the psychology, right? Like, give you an example. Like, I believe psychology is the most important factor, right? What you believe. That's the most important factor. So an athlete, for example, if you're training if your competition's in 2 weeks, I don't want to touch you, right? Because I don't want to put you in no man's land, making you doubt anything, right? You go with what you got and you go 100%. So that psychology of teaching, before I knew any of this stuff, I didn't know any of this stuff. I went to doctors and I begged them to cut me, begged them to fix my back. Right?
Wow.
I had back pain for a year, and it was miserable back pain where I was thinking about, it was a big problem, I was thinking about my back all the time. And I was squirming all the time. And I took so many freaking naproxen Aleve that you want to talk about the guts. Well, the motility was fucked up. Right? From taking all those drugs. So, and I denied the pain, right? Oh, okay, all right. I'm just going to make it go away. I begged surgeons to fix me. And fortunately, none of them did. And then finally, I figured it out for myself. Playing on a freaking stability ball was how I figured it out. Anyway, I sort of divergent, maybe not keeping it on point.
What are some maybe agreeable things that would be things that you would say are part of good motion, good movement?
So that's what I say. Like, I think we're kind of getting to this idea that people move different. We adapt to our environments. We kind of don't actually have major struggles per se anymore. That like we
not
don't
physically.
Yeah. So let me go on that. Yeah. So like, this is where like walking, however you walk, I still think is like that good thing. And that's where I keep kind of bringing up to you guys. I'm a little more obsessed with like how the trunk works and how the core functions and stuff. Because the hands and the feet sort of represent themselves differently with a lot of people. We see a lot of commonality in it, and we like to say we got the fix or we have something on it. Like, that's just kind of how sometimes people need to digest stuff. But if you're really working with us or working with somebody, they're going to see your tendencies, and you can lean into your tendencies. And it's like when we're working with like a sports specific athlete, they have a lot of repetition in something that's usually very sighted. And they have like a lot of like adaptation to that and discomfort or chaos in their life because they're not, most of the repetition in their life is not towards that order of balance, a basic function like walking, whatever that is for them, right? So I think the more, again, like if shit hit the fan today and we all had to get moving, like we might have to start migrating again and stuff, and walking's going to be a big piece of that. And if we haven't been prepping for that, that would be like a struggle. So I think that being like thinking of what a human does as a prime function, something we're going to all do every day, keeping it in the back of your mind, but chasing the things you love and knowing that it could create chaotic adaptation. But if you keep, again, that other playbook in there and you're exploring it, you're getting in 10 minutes of walking a day, you're keeping after something that's prime for you. And then you can find a coach or somebody that the industry is steering a little more towards like movement now. So you can find somebody that maybe can look at you and can work with you, because anybody's a coach. You're working with the individual. You're like, we can say whatever we want to say, and we make judgments based on the person if you're really being a coach for somebody. So I think that's really what it comes down to. When it comes to some movement, do you guys think, or pain rather, do you think most pain comes through the spine, like comes through the back in some degree of so people potentially in their day-to-day maybe not moving correctly or lifting weights incorrectly, and even if it's not necessarily registering as like a lower back issue, is this all just from the spine? Like, do you think that that's okay?
No.
Yeah.
So
well, I would say maybe it's sensed to the spine.
we could say it's sent to the spine.
Sent to the spine.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm not even. I'm not even talking about like from a central nervous system perspective at all. I'm just talking about like maybe some of the pain is from just the spine not being like unlocked, super stiff type thing.
So when we're looking at the body has a hierarchy, okay, of protection. I guess we could say it wants to protect the head. Number one, brain's in there. It wants to protect the spine. What's in there?
That's
right?
The wiring.
Yeah. Spinal cord. Okay. Lots of important stuff. I tell a lot of my clients, we look at an anatomy chart and there's 10,000 nerves. Guess what? There's only one. And it starts at the brain stem, goes into the spinal cord, right? Once again, through science, we separate these things, right? So the way that I teach people pain starts to develop is it enters through the feet and then it gets translated through the shoulders. So I just had a retreat out in Hawaii on the Big Island, and we do a lot. I mean, everything that you can imagine from the minute they wake up till they go to bed. And one of the hours slots is mobility work. Okay. And I show people 6 out of the 8 people that came in, they were crooked. They had a high shoulder, they had a hiked hip, and they had a short leg. Okay. 6 out of the 8 people. How does that happen? Are you sitting and your shoulder gets out of whack? It's from standing, from walking, and then, any of your other aberrant patterns. So to me, this could be totally untrue, but the way that I see and the way that I fix most things is helping people understand that the pain gets translated from the feet to the shoulders, okay, in an X pattern. So my right foot is driving force to my left shoulder. My left foot is driving force to my right shoulder. We're spiral beings. That's why I love what Chris is doing with all of his videos, okay, and putting things, fascia wraps, fascia twists.
I just want to add real quickly, you actually utilize walking in your treatment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like during the treatment, you'll work on someone and then you'll have them walk. You'll work on them and have them walk.
Yes. The magic does not happen on the table, okay? Our body is not going to change in a restful position, okay? Fascia is this supercomputer that's tasked with like literally reading our movement every like split second, microsecond that we are walking. Gary Lineham's very famous for saying this. When we are at sea level, our body is absorbing 4.2 centimeters per square inch or per inch of force on our fascia. A guy is going to be absorbing about 1,800 to 2,000 pounds of force a day, every single second on their body. And then a woman is going to be somewhere between 15 and 1,800. Now, the kicker is that fascia can withstand about 1,000 pounds of force per square inch. Okay. So think about that. From the time you create this function, your body can literally withstand breaking down from that for 10 to 15 years. Right. And it's the continuous movement, the compensatory patterns that we develop, okay, that get translated from the feet to the shoulder, okay, in a rotational manner. Okay, you slow someone down when they're running, you can see, we stay tight, but we're a rotational being, even when walking. So, yes, what I think is, besides the pain being sent from the feet to the shoulders, it's then going to be translated through the spine. Why? Because if we have a serious problem and we get back pain, it's curtains. After that, you're in bed. You're not even moving. You're not just not playing your favorite sport or doing BJJ or powerlifting. You're not even upright at all. So when I'm working on people, I tell them, we're going to work for about 15 minutes. You're going to stand up and walk. And that's because the magic doesn't happen on the table. Or if you're doing work on yourself, the magic doesn't happen on the floor. The body's at rest. It allows you to penetrate the fascial layers deeper to work out the adhesions, get them to slide better, okay? And then when you stand up, now that this adhesion is no longer restricting movement, it's going to let go, and it's going to create space for other areas of the body to work better, okay? And that's how we unfurl and the body goes into chaos and order till all of a sudden we're in a really great state.
I say basic. I'm sorry.
Was he making faces behind?
I know Chris.
No,
is
he's
over here
jumping. All right. What I was going to say is that I consider strength just pressure management, right?
Sure.
It's just strength is pressure management. That's all I think of it as. Now, let's hear it.
It's just like the way I have felt pain is like changed completely. I will say this. This is very odd. So like I'm doing some stupid lunge snatch thing or something and I drop to my knee really hard and I'm like, fuck, I hit my knee, right? Like, God, this hurts, right? And I'm thinking tomorrow, like, my knee is just gonna be wrenched. Dude, all I feel is like somewhere in my trunk is just like knotted up and like all like jacked up from hitting my knee really hard. Aside from like a touch of a bruise or something like that direct, like immediate like contact, I feel like I've like picked up this weird sense of like when I hit something like out here, like it funnels all to my trunk and that's where it all gets like stuck. And I can sit here and I can work this stuff out and I get relief on just like a base level. It's
badass.
just something.
Yeah, that's badass.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just something I have noticed big time. Like I crushed my toe and like I definitely have like when I'm walking, I have like direct pain on it. But like honestly, like working up here has been the thing to relieve all of it. So
I challenge you to find anybody though that is that in tune with their body.
oh yeah.
You know, I challenge you, and you're not going to find too many.
No,
And that's the-
No.
That's the problem.
The time
And-
investment and the
Exactly.
and the determination.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
But
and
real quick, on that note, what do you think are some beginner habits that can help somebody get a little bit more in tune with some of the aspects of their body that Chris and some of us feel here? What are some things that people can start doing? I mean, one thing you can see, like, the feet are important. You mentioned things start there, so maybe the feet, but what else?
so I would say lifting without a mirror, right?
No, that's a good idea.
Lifting without a mirror.
intuitive.
Why do you need visual feedback for, a dumbbell incline bench press?
if you were hunting something, you wouldn't be looking in the mirror.
Yeah.
No.
So what else
If
did
you're
it-
playing football, you're not running around with a mirror.
Right.
Where's the football?
It-
Right.
You're
it's
sensing.
your
You're
directional
sensing.
intent. We say
Yeah.
the directional intent, like what is the point of the task? That's why I said like task training.
Yep.
What am I doing and what am I directing all this towards? Could be internal, could be at the mirror, but what is it really? If I'm looking for carryover, I'm directing it towards something.
Mm-hmm.
And then, shoot.
Maybe even
Yeah,
closing
somebody
the
talk.
eyes.
I'll
Maybe
get it.
Sometimes, yes. Yeah.
like kind of going
Absolutely.
inward. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what taking the mirror away does. It forces you to focus more internally on your movement, right? The second one would obviously be barefoot. Go barefoot, not all the time, every once in a while. Train the body like a caveman. Okay. Yeah.
We also have like a lot of what you're teaching, where some of the stuff you were showing me, especially today, where you get this discrepancy between one shoulder and another shoulder, right? Like someone's kind of reaching overhead or even reaching out in front. The right shoulder may lower a lot. The left shoulder may raise up a bunch. And you're shortening kind of at that hip. Some of what you guys are teaching, I believe, is in regard to locomotion and in regard to just trying to move more athletically. What I want to kind of see here is maybe just a discussion along the lines of if we create some good rotation, and I don't have the right words to describe because this looks a little different than rotation. Is this a transverse plane? I don't even know.
It's all three.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
all three.
Okay, yeah, it's
Also,
all three.
forward intent is
So
We're
let's put it this way.
modifying that
We
even.
we work in the biomechanics of gravity. We're dealing with gravitational force on us. And in the most prime function we do, standing upright, this is the best representation of how you manage it and get that force to direct itself to the ground.
Yeah, I guess all I'm trying to say here is it seems like you guys have found this to be something that is helping people manage pain
Big time.
by going head over foot.
Yeah, well,
Right.
you're back to we want to reduce to all intents and
Mitigate.
purposes to eliminate compensatory protective tension. If the head is in the middle, you are in an unsustainable position if you were to lift one leg. So if I'm standing here, my feet are 12 inches apart, and you're not going to move your head has to stay in the middle. You lift one foot. You see, you moved your head, right? So if I'm there and I lift, I'm instantly in a force vector that's making me go in that direction. Okay, the wide receiver is going to stab out. Well, we did make him hover and float, right? So maybe he can, right? Right. But so basically, if I'm here and I lift, it's instantaneous there. I'm not in a sustainable position. That means as I'm passing through it, I don't notice that it's not a sustainable position because I passed through it fast enough. But the lower back on the opposite side is going to prevent the cantilever. They call it like a trundle whatever effect, where if I swing through and the pelvis dips, I got big problems, right? So what's going to end up happening, I'm not balanced. So my lower back lights up on that other side just a bit to keep that hip suspension high enough that I can swing it through. And I land on the next one, and I did 10 million of them. I was putting a tiny little stress on the lower back. And I figured this out because I got into bad back pain and then figured out how to get out of that back pain. And then I was able to train clients, and basically the nutrition, right? The hydration and the flushing and the communication of fluids and things in the discs of the spine. It's not like there's blood going there, right? It's mechanical stress that gives it the nutrition, right? You juice.
Food makes bodies. Food makes fascia.
Okay, food makes fascia, but the movement is what models the fascia.
Yeah.
Right? And the movement
Nourishes it.
It nourishes it, exactly. It's nutritional, right? It's medicinal movement.
Yep.
And when you get in tune with the walking, we're top of the food chain because we can walk the way we do, right? That's why. So when you have that balance, you're getting this three-dimensional sort of massage of these softer tissues in between the harder tissues of the spine, and you tend to get, the whole radius of that thing, the whole annulus is now getting a equal and opposite. Every position's just getting the right amount because it's balanced, and the musculature around it is not compensating to hold your dumb ass up because you don't know better.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly.
And
It's a great way to kind of massage out some of those compensation
Yeah,
patterns.
well, it's like movement is life, right? The change is the only constant. So when you can get that, like,
Can I say something on this? So like he was talking about like somebody coming in with a high shoulder or a high tip or something. That's we call that in a sense, same side stride, where they may be living and performing all acts on one side of the body. They're sided. Because I can function, I can walk, I can do everything. Here, I'm carrying a piece of plywood my entire life on the left side. Okay?
Right.
And at some point it's
Imbalance.
chaotic. It's unbalanced.
So if I can cut into that for a quick second and just reiterate what you're saying. First time I ever seen a massively raised shoulder, this guy used to install windshields by himself. So what he did, he'd put the windshield, the bottom part here, the top part would actually rest against his head, and he would walk over to the car like this.
Yeah.
Okay, and he literally came in, and I mean, incredible back pain and hip pain. He literally came in like this, and I'm like, did you look at yourself in the mirror? Did you like?
You told me not to look
You
at
know?
me.
What I love about this though, like we're not body workers, but we're movement.
He is a body worker.
I know he is.
Okay,
no,
sorry.
I know he is.
Okay,
he gets
all
to
right.
like work with somebody
Yeah.
right then and there, and he can see this thing. We're developing practices for people, like a movement practice for somebody. And with that information, and I know that somebody can function sided, then I know they sure as hell can function on the other side.
Yep.
And when I know that and I can expose them to it, then I know that they can alternate between the sides. And then they can take that information and they can come back to their powerlifting, and then they can start applying their powerlifting and all these like isometric holds and running or walking or whatever, and they can start feeling it in their jujitsu. And then they can take what they learned from their jujitsu with that new body and feel it in their walking and take it back to their powerlifting. And then you sort of get this nice little circle of life where we're sort of managing or massaging fascia and stuff and developing more order in our patterns.
Guys, you guys watch these podcasts and you see Mark, Andrew, and myself smashing our feet each episode. We're using the Neuro Ball from Naboso along with some of their different mats on the bottom of our feet to help drive sensation, stimulation, and blood flow to the bottoms of our feet. Andrew, how can they get it?
Head over to naboso.com. That's naboso.com. And at checkout, enter promo code POWERPROJECT to save 15% off your entire order. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
Would we all agree that there's probably going to be some discrepancies between one side and the other, no matter how much you work on it and try, and maybe there's not even a reason to try to have the left side and right side function the exact same way?
Yeah, very few people. One of the things that I believe drives Naughty Aguilar absolutely insane is he still sees the inconsistencies in his body, even with him using his functional patterns all the time. Okay, so he's chasing like this perfectly straight body like when he was born. But me, for myself, when I was younger, I used to play hockey, so I would be shooting right-handed, played baseball, swung right-handed. I was a pitcher, I threw right-handed. I was a quarterback, I threw right-handed, okay? Even still to this day, with everything that I know about the human body, I still have a little bit too much tightness in my pec minor, my right trap, and my rotator cuff. And my bicep, okay, is tight and rotated in from snapping that ball. And I've been working on it for like 15, 20 years.
I got one everyone can relate to. What about wiping your ass?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I broke my right arm and holy shit. That is a serious matter.
Rotation.
Do we all wipe right?
You talk about thinking about a problem.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh.
Try doing that with the left. Just
I
try
learned
it
to-
today.
Fuck no.
I
Be
learned
dirty as fuck.
I learned to wipe my ass with the casted arm.
Oh, there we go.
I was like, this I can't normalize it, and I didn't care back then. So
I didn't care. That's great.
Well, yeah, we should start mixing up the way we wipe our ass, though. Deal with that inefficiency.
So that we can get.
it's one of the I'm much better at it now.
Yeah, I don't think we need to chase perfectly balanced. I think that's silly. And
Yeah.
I think what we're sort of getting after here, for the most part, is we're trying to like eliminate pain, or we're talking about ways to manage pain or work through pain or
Mitigate.
Yeah, you're not gonna get rid of it. You should lean into it at times. But I think like you played everything right-sided, and was that a great part of your life, and it was joyous, and
Oh,
it
it was
was something you
amazing.
loved, and would
Amazing.
life be the
Yeah,
same
right.
for you if you did not do that?
No
Like,
way.
Then who cares, right?
Yeah.
And if you're able to mitigate any of the negatives from it, then you're fine, right?
What do you guys think about like stiffness? You know, I think we've all experienced. We've played sports and done certain things, and you go to drive somewhere or fly somewhere, and then you get up and you're kind of doing the old guy push off the seat or push off your own thighs, and you're making all kinds of noises, and people think there's a fucking bear on the plane or something. How do we get our bodies out of this this stiffness, and or is it just part of just getting older?
So a body in motion tends to stay in motion, right? There was a very long time ago, before I was really into tissue the way that I am right now. I remember reading a study that they had just come out with, they being the scientists, showing that they found out that there's actually a polarization of the M1 type macrophages in the immune system that increases as you age. And what this is it's pro-inflammatory. So even though while you're sleeping and your body's repairing itself, the older you get, the greater of a concentration you have in this M1 to the M2 macrophages. So you wake up stiffer, and you're going to be stiffer throughout the day, okay? Having said that, it comes down to a multitude of different things like we already talked about.
You can still
Comes
always
down to-
get better.
Yeah, hydration. Are you drinking some type of structured or hydrogen water, right? Are you eating a really good immune-centric diet or something that's as close to what our ancestors ate? Or, are you the potato chips and the Subway and the pizza guy?
Nope.
David?
Nope. No. I'm the ice cream and too much candy guy.
Oh.
I'm not the potato chip guy. All right. Now, no, I was going to say that the number one thing that I do is like, I'm different than a lot of guys in fitness because a lot of me's not a fitness guy. I get away with my diet. Okay. I get away with it. And I'm bipolar, so I've been super disciplined, can't be more so, and I've been super undisciplined, can't be more so, because diabetes is like feeling it. When I did the Ben and Jerry's,
It's the greatest laugh of all time. It really is.
Oh, I got different ones. I got sinister ones. But
The old diet.
I did 4 Ben and Jerry's every day for 8 months. Some days 5, some days 6, and one day 7.
Those are like 1,000 calories each, dog.
Oh, I know. I know.
When he was looking at one serving, he thought it was the whole carton, but it's 4 servings.
Right.
How much weight did you gain?
Understandable.
So
It's
here's
a
what happened.
misunderstanding.
Here's what happened. From
like an experiment.
From a fat accumulation point. It's hard for me to. I'm a hard gainer. Okay, so what happened to me for that ice cream is I thickened. Okay, I thickened and I got up, 195 or so. I felt fucking strong, felt amazing, right? And I didn't have to eat much in the morning.
Ice cream in the morning, you have a problem.
No, I didn't have it in the morning because I didn't even want it then. All I wanted was black coffee. That's it. And
It's a new diet.
yeah, and ice cream is like it makes you feel good. You think real well doing it. Like it's a pleasure in the moment thing. And I could get away with it for a long time.
I'm getting into this diet.
Yeah,
It sounds really good.
No, it's a diet that leaves you high and dry. So you have work to do once you're off the diet. But the reason I stopped this crazy behavior was because my fingers and toes were falling asleep and hurting at the same time.
Diabetic neuropathy.
Yes. So I got on my knees. I said, okay.
You ate so much ice cream that your fingers and feet went numb. Yes.
So
Fuck
my
yes.
point, and my point in telling this story is that diet affects your stiffness.
Okay.
You almost got rigor mortis from it.
No, for me right now, I'm in a stiff phase of my life. We went to catch the first of all, they discourage Uber and Lyft at the Sacramento airport. It's like, make a right, go down that, cement staircases, now crawl through a fence in a parking lot, you find it.
It takes a while to get there.
It takes a long time. And we took the shortcut, which meant I had to bend down. And I'm like bending down all old man, like, fuck, I don't want to get my backpack all wet by putting it down, so I'm going to hold it. And the point is that my diet sucks right now because I indulge. I get away with it. You can't tell. You think I eat pretty decent. But I'm learning to prioritize protein and all that. But my point is that when I ate clean, just beef and broccoli, I was flexible as all get out. I was so flexible. Right now, I'm walking around in a triple ply fucking lifting suit.
Yeah, you said you were running. You felt like you were in a wetsuit.
I felt like I was running the other day with Graham. And first of all, jujitsu and running for me,
Yeah.
that's water and dirt. Like they're opposites.
Yeah.
So Graham's like, let's go to the track and run. I'm like, all right. I'm not going to be able to accelerate and I'm not going to be able to run all that well, but I'm happy to run.
You did pretty good.
Yeah, I mean,
ran
Especially
fine.
first
You
time
always
out.
look
no,
good, right?
no. But the problem is that like compared to how I could run,
Sure,
if I was eating clean and I can now cycle the leg, because I was explaining to Mark, I'm not a power runner, right? I'm a position runner. I got to bounce on fascia.
Hey, that's day one. That fucking looks
That's
pretty
pretty.
good for me.
Like, look at
Well,
the way your
the
arms are, like the range of motion.
Yeah, the shoulder, the hip.
The night before, I probably had 15 ice. No, how many? 12? 12? No,
12
yeah, I
what?
probably 12 ice cream Mexican popsicles. I'm talking.
Why are you doing this?
Because I'm a weak man. Because I'm a weak man.
So many.
We found the kryptonite, the David Weck kryptonite.
Yeah, why not 4? Or 2?
Well, and plus a bag of macadamia nuts because I saw Thomas DeLauer talk about how good macadamia nuts were.
Palmitolytic acid.
Yeah, so I get the chocolate covered ones. And I eat the whole $9 bag. And that's at the bargain outlet. So the point is that
Emphasize bargain.
I got a bargain market and it's why I eat so poorly. Because they got nice junk food.
We got to move you away from that store.
I know.
It's not working out.
So but I can tell you that like Mark wrote out like a plan on how you taper. I'm like, I showed it to Chris. He's like, that won't work.
Well, I was just thinking, like, he really seems to like ice cream a lot, so let's leave it in there. And I just said, hey, just like when you run out of it, don't buy it again for a little bit, and then.
So anyway,
Go back.
the whole point is that you want to get rid of stiffness. Stop drinking so many beers during the football game, right? You know, clean up your diet, clean up everything, right? I mean, and it's hard as hell to do, is the reality.
All right, so you clean up your diet and you're still stiff. What do we got?
Oh, Jesus.
You said to continue moving,
now,
right?
Yeah, now we want to get down on something like a lacrosse ball, something like a foam roller. We want to use some bars, some bands, just apply pressure to the system. When we look at fascia has more pressure sensors than pain sensors, okay? So eventually the pressure is going to override. And the way that we look at fascia and its layers, when we get an adhesion, so typically the muscle tissue is going to be sliding and gliding like this in and out, okay? We get an adhesion, and what ends up happening is that partial layer gets stuck. So now here comes the dysfunction, okay? So what we want to do with pressure works on our fluid balance system in the body, particularly hyaluronic acid. So 2 minutes, it shows, okay? Science shows 2 minutes of consistent pressure in any one area, the body starts to produce hyaluronic acid. Now, we want to look at that adhesion like somebody poured a whole bunch of honey on top of it, okay? It's stuck, it's not moving that well, functioning and dysfunction. When the hyaluronic acid comes in, it's like adding water to the honey. Now, all of a sudden, it starts to become less viscous and it starts sliding better and better. And then that adhesion will break up. Function gets restored in that area, okay? And now that's creating space for the entire rest of the system to move, albeit in probably a little bit of dysfunction here and there. But to me, you know, going back to, I don't mean to throw Nadia under the bus, and you guys are like, no, we're not body workers, we're movement specialists. Ben Patrick gets people pain-free with their knees through movement. So you guys are body workers. I don't look at any one modality and say, this is the only thing, okay? When Ben says that he doesn't foam roll, that's where I tend to disagree a little bit. I feel like you may even feel a little bit better and protect yourself even from more injury if you get down on a ball every once in a while.
He
or
does
if you have
everything else right. And there's
Exactly.
nobody more disciplined than him.
Yeah,
you can
Ben,
tell.
yeah.
Yeah, you
Right.
can tell.
Yeah.
Wait, who are
But-
we talking about now?
Ben.
Yeah, Ben.
Okay.
You can get people pain-free with excessive ranges of motion, like he teaches, knees over toes. You can get people pain-free with movement. I don't care how silly it looks, or people might think that it's silly. Nadi's helped, you know, potentially thousands, maybe even tens of thousands of people restructure their body through movement and get rid of pain. Now, what I like about Nadi is he also believes in pressure. If you buy his programs, the first thing that he shows you is, hey, we got to get down on a lacrosse ball and we're going to take this med ball and work in the abdomen, you know? And there are not too many other things that I would start with other than pressure for somebody that already is in pain, especially when they're doing it themselves because they can control the pressure. Where somebody like me, if I'm working on Mark, I might have a tendency to just be like, you know, suck it up here just for a second. If it's somebody else, a lay person, then what I would be doing is backing off and being like, okay, you know, what can this person handle right now? That's the level that we work at. Okay, so doing it yourself, I believe, is actually one of the best ways to start.
Yeah.
Okay, you desensitize yourself and you can control all the pressure. There's nothing to fear. Become curious about your body. And once again, I keep on referencing back to like medicine, where they're supposed to be the experts. Don't be the Google Doc, don't be the WebMD. Come to me for all the problems and all the pain and everything like that. Stay in the dark, be left in the dark. I want to keep you stupid, okay? I told a story this morning on Chris's podcast about when I went into physical therapy clinic to work for the first time. I was fixing people left and right. 6 months later, I get into my review. I think that I'm going to get the highest of highest raises. I'm the golden child. And I literally have the owner looking at me saying, you're not a yoga instructor, so stop stretching people. You're not a massage therapist. Quit getting rid of people's trigger points. Quit getting rid of their adhesions. Stop explaining shit to people. He literally swore.
Wow.
Stop explaining shit to people. Okay, you are here to dangle the carrot, give people enough to where they know they're getting better, but not too much to where
Goddamn.
we push them out early.
This is what he said.
This is what the owner of the facility was telling me.
He said, quote, dangle the carrot.
Dangle the carrot.
Wow.
And
that, Mark?
he said,
dangle the carrot.
if
I don't
you
even like carrots that much.
Dangle.
Nope. I don't even know where.
high glycemic. If you cannot abide by these rules, your services are no longer needed. I just graduated with my master's degree in kinesiology. I'm ready to fix the world. I looked at him, super cocky still, and I said, "Do you want me to leave now, or should I finish my shift?"
Great.
And he said, your services are no longer needed. I got all of my stuff. I'm walking out, and he stops me in the doorway. And he's like, how much do you want for all of your weightlifting notebooks? Because I'll cut you a check right now. And I looked at him and I said, they're not for sale. The notebooks are 99-cent composition notebooks. Okay. But the IP in there, I've been developing for 7-10 years already. So I'm not going to sell them to you. And I just walked by. He was walking behind me saying, you'll never work on this island again. I'll make sure of it. You better watch your back.
Jesus.
Do this. And this, it's like 5'6", 60-year-old Asian dude. Like, he's established. He's got a couple facilities. Who am I? I just graduated and I'm looking to help people.
This is a great story.
2 weeks later, he sends police over to my house to arrest me, saying you stole medical records. And I went in, got the composition notebooks. I go, is this what he's talking about? These are not medical records. They're weightlifting programs. Look. So the guys are like, we'll be right back. They go back down in their car. They come back up. I got to sign an affidavit, explain everything. Goes in front of the judge. It gets thrown out. Wow. That was my introduction into wanting to do the right thing and helping people in the system.
Shit. That's an unbelievable story.
Believe it.
I mean, it was a good story.
I think let's try to stick on the topic of how to get out of chronic pain or chronic discomfort. So you mentioned myofascial release. We talked already about walking. Walking is a nice input for most people. And then we got maybe stuff in the gym. Like, what are some things maybe we can do in the gym that would help somebody that is 50 that feels like they're 70? You got something?
I just want to say, before I push Andrew, can you pull up that video of what Nowdy was doing right there? Because I know when you pulled that up, some people are going to start trying to roast. But the thing is like, even though that looks kind of wild, could if you're listening or if you're watching, could you do that with a cable?
Well, Chris just mentioned curiosity.
I know.
Hugely
Curiosity is good.
Yeah.
But think about the amount of stiffness that most people have. And just the way he's moving with that cable, with the load on the other end of the cable, most people cannot comfortably do that or just roll around and let their body contort in those ways.
Well,
if we're talking about like minimal restriction, he's literally showing that right there, even though it looks wild and crazy.
I love when these practitioners, the people that are practicing, that's why I mentioned to David, like, go out and run. I think it would be great for people to see that. And down the road, as you get more proficient with jiu-jitsu, it'd be great for people to see that. I've seen Chris work out before. Chris works out like a fucking animal. Chris Kidawski over here. And this Chris over here works out like a fucking freak. So it's great to have that proficiency to show like, hey, what I'm doing, it does have merit. And if you follow any of the stuff from Functional Patterns, especially from Nowdy, he's starting to do some striking and stuff. And to me, I'm not a striker myself. I don't know a ton about it, but he's starting to look like he's getting better and better at that stuff all the time. Sure. And these look like some complex movements as well.
Something I like about this, you were talking about pressure. We like pressure as well. We do body tempering. I love using a kettlebell. I'll do that a lot of the time over maybe a lacrosse ball or something like that. I saw you lean in, like mark into some stuff. I love things like that. But something about I've always had in my practice, especially when I was doing tons of calisthenics, gymnastics, was just moving around on the floor. Because you'll just expose yourself to pressure and points on your body that you may not have even decided to put yourself there. Because if you're just getting started, you may just be putting the lacrosse ball where the person told you to put it. Yeah. And you don't have that like playful, intuitive sort of like curiosity yet. And if you just start moving around on the floor, I know like even just doing this with your kids, if you have kids, get down with your kid. That's the easiest way to do it because it's something productive right then and there that is going to be good for them and you. But if you are at the gym, find a mat and just start moving around a little bit and rolling around and just notice how that helps your body. Maybe you feel something. Maybe that's what you should go put the lacrosse ball on or hit it with a heavy kettlebell or something like that. Yeah. I love the external load like that rather than just the pressure of my body. I feel like there's some level of being able to give into it a little bit when I put something like heavy on me. But yeah, I mean, I could not express enough, like roll around on the floor. It's so good for you.
A lot of this is really just tuning back in to our inner child, right? We become adults, and sure, I mean, work becomes very serious, right? Bills become very serious. The family, everything, the dog, right? Everything, our joy is taken away. And then we develop pain as a result, right? And that's very serious. And then we got to take pills. That's really serious. Now we might have to go and get surgery. That's super serious, right? You look at Naughty, you're like, what is he doing? He's playing around like a kid. You give a kid a hammer, everything becomes a nail, right? So where's your joy? I ask my daughter when she gets upset. I go, where'd your joy go? You know, and all of a sudden it's like a minute later, she's happy again, okay? So if you're in that much pain or if you're having that many problems, ask yourself, where'd your joy go and where can I go and be a kid right now? Is it going to play at the beach? Maybe some volleyball or something over there, or spike ball, whatever. You know, but what we have a tendency to do, reach for another beer, reach for another slice of pizza, have no motivation to go to the gym today, clearly because I have so much going on, right? You deprioritize your health, okay? And nothing is fun to you anymore. So that's where I would start. If anybody out there is like, well, I can't do that, or I can't be David or Chris or Mark or Nsima, you are you. Meet yourself where you can, move like a kid, have fun with it, and then all of a sudden, watch how things start to open up. Vishen Lakhiani said, Code of the Extraordinary Mind, you're not going to be happy when you're successful. You're going to be happy, and then you're going to become successful, right? So you start with being happy and having fun with whatever you're trying to do with your body. And eventually you're going to see these doorways open. Things will feel better and better. And then pain's an afterthought, right?
You do some crawling every workout, right? You do bear crawl, forward, backwards, sideways. I know Nsima's been playing around with it. Nsima, you're doing jujitsu, the powerlifting background, bodybuilding background, and now you're running. What are some things that you're noticing that is allowing you to still perform at a high level? Like you're right in the middle of your like athletic prime.
Yeah, I'm going to try to be as short with this as possible. But I think, you know, when you're powerlifting or when you're focused on building muscle and strength training in the classical sense, everything that you're doing in the gym has you figuring out a way to get tight and to become strong. So you're getting under a squat bar. Okay, let me brace my core, rib cage over hips, hold my breath, squat down, come up, do multiple reps like that, put it away, and then maybe walk around and breathe. But I'm still walking around like this. I'm not undoing any of that. So you do that rep after rep for hours with different movements. Bicep curl, you're not bending here. You're here. You're rigid. And I noticed that I built up that rigidity in the gym. When I started jujitsu, I noticed people were moving in all these different ways. It did help me to loosen up and move in those different ways with jujitsu. But the thing that helped me the most was figuring out how can I replicate aspects of that actually in the gym. Because in the gym, yeah, you're trying to spend time to gain strength so that it can play a role in everything else you do. But I think, and what I've found is, at least personally, the movement patterns in the gym showed itself in the way I moved in daily life, even on the mats. And I had to, in the gym, think of different ways of like, okay, I'm going to do a row, but now what happens if I bend and I do the row with the full range of motion, come all the way here, come all the way back here, and allow my body to bend doing some of these different things. Maybe not with the heaviest load possible, but allow the load to pull me into different positions. And what that's done is it's allowed me to now have less bodily restriction when running, when doing jujitsu, because I'm not limiting my range of motion all the time. There's still movements like we were doing that Nordic deadlift, right? I'm not going to fucking bend my back and I'm not going to do that when doing heavier loaded movements. I'm still going to get the benefits of that load, but I take time to do lighter movements in the gym where I can allow my body to express hyper ranges of motion. And that kind of that undoes all of the stiffness that I create with all the other heavier loaded movements that I'm doing. So I think if we can figure out ways, and you guys are doing an amazing job with this, of not just having movements that apply locomotion, but then your spine is moving in different ways with this amount of load, and it trains an individual not to create chronic stiffness in the gym that then pulls itself into your daily life.
This is what I was talking about. Like, I really feel like a lot of what we're trying to do for somebody that isn't more into the classical lifting style, it can fit as like your traditional accessories in the weight room. We're thinking about things and we're having to put reps in anyways. Like, have you felt like your powerlifting has gotten worse?
No.
So, you know what I mean? So like, but you feel like everything else is getting better.
I have an
and
ability
you
to
didn't have to take, you know what I mean? So like, that should just be an invitation right there. At least try it. Be curious.
Yeah.
Listen, be intuitive, see what it feels like for you, explore it in your own way if you so choose. Look into what we're doing, check out Nowdy, check out some of these other people that are getting into this stuff. Like, but I think you'll see that there's you're not going to get weak doing it. There's no need.
I'd like to finish kind of on this this topic of the rope.
Okay, good.
And you have another invention creation.
We brought you a few of them.
Yeah. Great. You know, you guys showed me the rope last time. You showed Andrew and I and Nsima as well. When I see you use the rope on Instagram, and when you were showing me more stuff today, I was just like, man, this is such a great tool because you're moving the rope around your body. You're not really even asking a lot of people to really necessarily jump rope.
We're specifically saying for a time, don't do the jump.
And I like the intention of it. And I think maybe sometimes when people see you on Instagram, maybe they're not 100% sure of what the intention of it is. What are you trying to get people to do?
I mean, the rope is integration, and the 2 tin cans with the cord gives you communication. So the right can sense at every instant along the path what it's getting from the left and vice versa. If you don't let go of the handle, it's impossible to get tangled in it even. Because you could wrap it, and all you do is just pull it apart and you're connected with the rope. We brought you that rope, the hybrid rope. But what it's doing is it's a progressive way that can be extremely simple. And I think we're starting to see the beginnings of normalization where it's like, oh, okay, you know, this person's not jumping through the rope, but they're still swinging it around. I am trying to get you to do that logo that's in the background, to time the up and down absolutely perfect with everything by rotating everything with an integrated timing.
Because when a human being moves, it's almost like the earth moving, like the earth is spinning and it's rotating, and there's a lot of shit going on when we're moving. We're not just moving in one.
The spiral dynamic is the fucking game. I mean, it's the DNA. It's the actin myosin filaments themselves.
Like
right?
when we rotate, our shoulders are not only going back and forth this way, but they're also going up and down as well.
Well, true rotation,
right? Like
right. That is most functional. The figure eight never has to stop. Right? If I go linear in one plane, now I got to stop and go back unless I know better, and then I get the loop. And the smaller I can make that loop, the more deceptive I can be in the Marshall. Right? Because that's essentially what we're doing is, you know, absorbing and issuing.
But with that rope, it's ingraining that over and over again.
Yeah, can I
yeah,
say something?
please.
Yeah, so there's what I want you to see when you see this, and there's what it does. I think he's kind of getting a little more into what it does, but there's like 5 patterns you can learn with it. Stationary, you can drill it. Just like any other thing we decide we're going to do, we look at it and we kind of give it that, like, what is that? Do I like that? Is that something I want to try? It doesn't look like it might be that hard. Oh, there's only 5 things I got to learn with it, and then I can sort of pick it up and get after it. Okay, like I'm not jumping. My foot's hurt right now, so okay, that's good. I can pick that up. It's very accessible. I don't have to buy a rope. I can just go get a rope. Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Cheap.
You can use a regular jump rope if you so choose. There's benefits to using different ones. You'll feel different feedbacks, but it's simple. You can pick up some movement and you can get excited to learn and be curious and start feeling something and move in your way in those patterns. Because everybody's going to actually look a little different when they're going through these patterns. Yeah. You'll notice that when you start to teach this to people. And what's really cool on the, like, what it does for you is we start to create symmetry in the brain. We start to get this unification of the brain.
Harmony.
Right brain, left brain.
Yes. Right?
Because the hands.
Which is already now making me more curious. Yeah. And I'm feeling something different than I was used to maybe in some of my fitness practice and movement practice.
See if you can find some other clips, Andrew, just so we can get some
the
different
origin,
looks.
I want to say that the our origin of realizing that, it's like, Wonder Twins unite, right?
And actually, I'm just going to say something real quick, too.
Yeah.
We literally have a whole free course on our site just to learn this. So you can just
Great.
go do
It's a
and
bunch
pick
of
it up.
free stuff on YouTube. Yeah.
No.
Your stuff on YouTube.
On Weck Method, there's
Don't
a
even look at it
course.
anymore. I made our course free because you need it.
Okay.
Like I want this accessible for people.
I really wanted to talk about this topic because I think people are going to pass this up. I think they're going to think it's dumb.
Yeah, right.
No.
And that's,
there's not a weight in there. There's no challenge. I'm not going to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, an FYI, you can always add weight to things when you
wanna
know
say
about it.
this,
So I
right?
like going heavy.
I want to say this real quick. When I started doing some of the stuff with the rope and the dragon roll or whatever,
Yeah.
when I was learning it, I noticed, whoa, what the fuck? Why is my shoulder feeling sore? So this is the thing. It's like when you're moving in those ranges and the little bit of feedback from the rope repetitionally, you'll feel soreness in different areas.
Yes.
It's dope.
I've been running before, and I'm, right at that point where you get like a runner's high, and I'm like kind of feeling the flow of what you guys are talking about and what you're teaching, and I'm like, that motherfucker David Weck, he's onto something. He knows what he's talking about. So I could feel that starting to integrate into my body. So this has been something that I've utilized that is actually helping me when I'm running.
So something I love about this is it's like I did tons of mobility work and stuff in my life, and I had time to fill it with it. I'm a coach, and it's my job. You know what I mean? I could sit around and do, and I just started being like, man, what's the best bang for somebody's buck in exploring movement at the range they need to be at right then and there? And this thing just lets you. I have a complex task that's not even that complex, but it seems it at first. But I get to move through that at my exact range, and I'm unifying both sides of the body. And like you'll start seeing the more advanced the skills get, they start demanding like huge ranges of motions that sort of have this like infinite like intent behind it. Like you can keep chasing the range. Don't be settled with I got the move done. The task can be done better.
And let me just say, when the range ends, the intent never stops. You see what I'm saying? That's how you get the most.
So we're chasing adaptation. We're chasing learning and adapting and progressing in something. So there's like this endless progression. And then if you're somebody that maybe is stronger, I got the patterns and like, I like this. I'm including this in my program now. You can progress in it linearly. You can start picking up heavier things. And like, I'm into some of the more unconventional type swinging tools. I swing kettlebells. That would be the most conventional. I think a lot of people are into that now. But clubs, we do the RMT club, but steel club as well, maces, Bulgarian bags. For any of the fighters out there that really get into that. But all these different tools that you can start swinging. A lot of people are starting to do it with barbells online because it gets you some attention, things like that, right?
Have you seen the hydro cores, I think they're called?
Of course, yeah.
It's filled with water.
Yeah, it's similar to the Bulgarian bag, that style, right? But you get that perturbation from the water. But like this tool, like being somebody that was already in that world a little bit, I have found that this tool will be the best invitation for people to start exploring those types of objects if that's something that intrigues them. And there's a great learning process with it, and then it carries over to those other swinging elements as well.
Again, I go back to their integration. It's the single best modality on planet Earth, right? Inclusive because you can do it non-impact and go at your own pace.
You can do tons of reps with it.
You can get in so many reps per unit of time that it's a very short time frame that you can get 10,000 reps because you could do 1,000 easily, right? And then 10 days you've done 10,000 reps.
And in the day that it's rainy and it's cold or it's snowing wherever you live, and you're not going to go for your walk outside. You don't have an expensive treadmill at your house.
Right. Do it right there.
Rope right in your house.
And it acts as the Rosetta Stone, meaning you will be able to interpret and translate any task beyond that rite of passage. You've entered the doorway and you graduated with the muscle memory of the ropes. And that muscle memory will now serve you in the assimilation, the acquisition and assimilation of all skills, and I'd include mental too. Because the brain harmony, right? And it's literally using the biomechanical motions to create this electrical harmony, this storm of electricity, right? Is biochemistry, and we're just running it. And if your car doesn't start, and it used to be, you had a clutch, you get it rolling down a hill, pop it, and bang, you're in.
Yeah.
Right?
And one of the really dope things is initially it's pretty fucking annoying.
Yes,
because,
it can be frustrating.
But when you get used to it and you become good enough, you can get into a flow with that thing because of the nature of what it is. You can get into a flow with it.
I showed Mark how when I would train hard and the next day, you don't feel like doing it, I could ramp myself up from a low energy state to fucking, yes, what's next from the rope. Because it gives you, unlike jumping a rope is a syncopated beat. So you're on the half beat with the jump rope. You float, right? It's hands down, feet up, hands down, feet up. When you're rolling a rope, it's fucking on the beat. It's hands down, feet down, both up, down, up. The whole thing going down, up, and you have to rotate. There is no option to not rotate. So reps, and think about in life, mirror neurons, the habituation of patterns, right?
Yep.
Go to the freaking county fair and watch them all plod along with the head in the middle, okay? Monkey see, monkey do, person, okay, we're even worse, right? So if you now normalize this activity, a little more confidence in the stride, a little swag, right? A little bit of, oh yeah, right? Sign a big contract and you're going to do it anyway, right? So the rope, it moves you in that direction, and you have to get past the frustration. And I would say that proficiency with the 4 patterns gives you the infinite. That's the most. If I had
course we have,
if I had
will take you the frustration away because you can do it at your own time. We were in a quick trip with you last time, rushing you into it. You know what I mean? Like,
well, you know what's funny?
Course.
You know what's funny is Chris is so good at teaching, and we hone it and hone it and hone it, that the online, when we were doing it as like a paid course, and you'd have to submit to pass the course, you'd submit your video. We were getting better online. We were getting better submissions from the online people doing it online than the coaches who came to us in the beginning. Because the instruction was so like honed down and distilled to be as effective as possible. Because and that you owe it to the person that you're trying to help to make the onboard as easy as possible.
And people might be wondering like why? Like what the hell is this for? Again, I think that stuff like this can really help people be pain-free.
And different reasons for different people.
Right.
I mean, if you can get upper body freaking no impact cardio massive, and you tone the shoulders and the arms and stuff, like when I started doing the ropes and I was doing it all the time, I mean, you start to see like the carving like Bruce Lee, because you're moving them sticks fast when you get good at it. So it turns into like you can get a nice physique if you're not going for big, but you're going for toned and like just athletic.
Get a workout
the
from it.
rope. Oh yeah.
I don't know your entire audience, but I mean, I've worked with people, and sometimes the hardest part of getting started with something too is like just the insecurities of getting started and not being good enough or something like that. Yeah. And to be able to have something that you can practice in your own home is so valuable in that first step for people, because even getting out and going for a walk is walking in front of people. And sometimes that's a lot for an individual, as simple as that is, but that can be, if they're at that stage in it, then having something to start developing and practice in your own space is super valuable for people. Yeah. And the more bang for your buck on it, the better, I think. So.
What you got over there, Andrew?
This first off, amazing conversation having everybody here. This is really freaking cool. But one thing, David, like I went on a run with Mark, and then we were running, we were jogging, we were trotting along, and then just to have fun, we were like, oh, okay, let's get into some real like hyper David Weck stuff, like head over foot, and like even do the sideways stuff. And what I was telling him, I was like, like before all of this, I would look at somebody that like had like a big side to side like strafe almost as they would go forward. And I'm like, I always thought that was wasted movement. So why is it like that? That is actually potential. Appears to be at least the better way to get from point A to point B, even though we're trying to go straight. By going head over foot and like kicking, and it seems like it's more. I guess it's just better.
Yep. Well, the other place you'll see this is it's sprint to the finish in a bicycle race. You would think that a bicycle should just go straight because you want to go that way, right? But they're carving that thing up,
cranking it,
because it's a lot faster to snake it there than it is to try to go straight. Now, what it has to do with is just dealing with the force of gravity that is vertical and going from a sustainable position to a sustainable position. So that's the key to good movement, is that you land with integrity, so there is no compensation. I got it. I can stay there. Now, the next one, I got to get there and meet it so that when it hits the load, I got it, right? In the textbook, it says that walking is a series of controlled falls where you catch yourself and catch yourself. And it can be that if your head's in the middle and you're just doing it, you're not in a sustainable position. So by definition, you cannot have full productivity of the intention of your body. There is a little bit that has to account for the fact that you're not integrated 100%. So with the head over the foot, it's just a cue that sort of puts you in the ballpark where you'll find, like, okay, that's sustainable, and then do it here and do it here, and you will experience a positive reinforcement when you get it right. And the whole head over foot is my attempt to simplify the instruction. It's free. You don't have to pay me anything, right? And if you pay attention to it and actively do it for 3 weeks, you said it. Now forget it. You're never going to got to think about it again, right? Because that's just now your new habit. You change where you put your car keys in your house. You change it. Well, you're going to go to the first spot and you'll be wrong every day in the beginning, and then the next week you'll go there twice. And then the third week you go there once. And then the fourth week it's in the other drawer and you never go back to the hook that it used to be on. It's very similar. The automaticity and the human being sort of reducing things down to where you don't have to think. That's how we get shit done. That's
Motility.
how you enjoy life. That's how you enjoy life.
I meant to ask you what that word was. Like I was thinking about, because that flow state you were talking about, the rope too. Like
Look it up again, Andrew.
Yeah, yeah. That like it leads you to that, doing something thoughtless.
It is an intestinal parasite.
Buy the book.
The macrophages.
But
Buy the book.
someone you're saying there, that cycle, that lateral, like things like tools like the rope kind of help you start learning these figure 8 cycles we're talking about. But I'm like, my kind of like thought process was like, I was like, kind of feel like I'm wielding gravity. So gravity's on me, and I'm not going to sit here and resist it when I'm trying to move. Like if I accept it, and I am in this sort of like head over foot posture, then I have to accept it over here. And when it does that, it gives me a little jolt, and it cycles. And then, whoop, now gravity's going to pull me down this side. And then I'm going to cycle back and forth.
to substantial.
Yeah, and then
Substantial.
The more I can
Sustainability.
the more I can contain, like
The definition of that substantial and sustainability is that, again, we're back to the minimization of compensation. So there's nothing aberrant. So there's nothing that needs to be attended to. Right? We don't need to put a stilt over here because the damn thing's balanced anyway. Right? And it's very counterintuitive, but some things are. Right? I mean, who would there's a lot of examples of things that are counterintuitive, and walking just happens to be one. Because don't do that. Don't climb on the chair. Don't put that pee, over there. Don't do this. Don't do that, right? Sit in the row, right? Listen to the teacher. Speak when spoken to. I'm a good little soldier, right? I mean, it's very linear sort of. What I found interesting, and I think, I look at geopolitics. You see videos on Instagram where, these Chinese school children are bouncing basketballs in a circle. And then on cue, they all switch and, they're moving the balls around in perfect synchronization, bouncing basketballs. That's amazing. You want to talk about getting shit done for a specific purpose. You got a bunch of soldiers who will get shit done. I view it as like, okay, you don't want that automaton, but if you look at that, I mean, are you kidding me? That is such discipline. It's unbelievable. Now, the same exact precision, but with more self-expression, can be had if you put a rope in each one of those kids' hands. Right? You don't got to bother bouncing the basketball and take you 10 years to get good at it like that. The rope is much faster, and it will encourage you. And I'm not discouraging this. If you want to do it, it's great. I mean, Jesus, that's a lot harder than the rope. Okay?
It's incredible.
It's a lot harder than the rope, but the rope gives you the same exact precision and harmony. Even more so. Because that requires it. You lose connection with it. I mean, look at Jesus.
But just the ability to connect with other people, too. Like
Yes.
everyone has to be in harmony.
Well, that's 11 is 1, the football team, right? I mean, that's why I love football so much. But my point in that is that the rope, if we can normalize the rope, it is inexpensive, it is scalable, and it is a rite of passage for a human being to be more fluid.
Yeah.
Okay? And if the cool kids in the class do it, everybody's going to do it. Okay? If Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson got on this show and said, "Hey, man, you got to roll this rope. Do it for 3 weeks. It'll change your life." Well, shit.
Game over.
It's done. I can go relax, right? So that, I believe, is inspiring people to take the ownership and the self-expression, because you're going to do it your own way. And we love the Bruce Lee, where it's absorb what's useful, discard what's not, add what is uniquely your own. That's what's exciting, because we all build on the shoulders of others, right? You didn't come up with everything, you know? So, okay, no matter who you are, what you've done, it's just an advance in the ball from someone who was carrying it before.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Now, let's carry that fucking ball and let's score touchdowns, right? But this is one where everybody can win if this message resonates. And we've already got like a toehold in that rope flow is a thing. Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a thing that goes away. I think it's a thing that will go on in perpetuity, the way a lot of things happen, right? Jump rope's never going away. Now we got this whole thing where you're doing flow, which means you're not jumping through it and people are gravitating toward it, community-wise, right? But also individual-wise. Like if I want to be a total badass and I'm going to stay in the gym. I'm not going to sleep, but I'm going to stay here all night. I'm going to get good, right? I mean, that's individual.
Yeah.
Right? But you can have people on Sunday morning all getting together and doing it, and it's exercise. You're waving your hand. Did you know that orchestra conductors live longer than most other professions? Because they're waving their damn hands in the air.
That makes sense.
Right? This is good for you. You know what I mean?
Anything's better than nothing. What about the so everyone always points to this the one woman that like she stays super straight. She won an Olympic gold medal, I believe, sprinter.
Devers.
But I think other than her, pretty much everybody else kind of has this head over foot pattern.
And
sprinting.
what I would say is that the only way to truly evaluate it is examine the footage head on, and you have to determine where the stride width is too. Because Allison Felix, 150 meters into the 200 is.
Nsima, do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
You're talking about Gail Devers, I think.
I think
think I've
so.
seen her.
Modern,
I think I know what you're
it's like a modern sprinter, like 100-meter.
Is she Jamaican?
I think so.
No, she's
American.
Yeah, she's American.
Yeah, American.
Well, I don't even know who you're talking about.
I think I know. who
I'd
you're
be
talking
mad
about.
curious.
I mean, if
she
her
the
name
tall
is
one?
in fact is Gail Devers.
No, it's not. Gail Devers. Well, yeah. Wait a minute. She might be. Yeah, there's Gail Devers. That's not who I'm thinking of.
I'm thinking of somebody like a lot more modern, but
Oh, that's not who you're thinking of.
no.
This looks
Oh,
old.
okay, then
It's not
definitely
new,
not.
is it? In 92.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. Andrew, take us
I
out
think
of
I know
here,
who
buddy.
you're talking
No,
about.
but the
And look up motility again.
the point, like Allison Felix will she's still doing figure eights at 150 meters, but her head isn't moving because her feet are running on the line, right? So that's always a factor too.
Yeah.
And people will miss, right? You'll miss. I posted a video on the gram of someone, I forgot who, Shelly Ann
Fraser
Price.
Yeah.
She's running, right? And I show it like she, in that thing.
I think
there's
that's who I was thinking of.
Okay.
Okay,
That makes
well,
sense.
Yeah,
No,
she's
but-
real strong. Like I think she runs with like a lot of power.
Yes, she does.
Her
Yes, she
body
does.
is kind of stiff. Like
Yes.
she's not stiff because she's
no,
like
not stiff, but
she's not
what it
moving a
is
lot.
it's attenuated, narrow about that center.
There you go.
Okay, so it's running close to the line there, but she does hit head over foot, especially in the beginning. And when she missed head over foot, it sent her this way, and she traveled from the middle of the lane to the right side of the lane, which is slower because
Right.
you are going that way. We're not going that way, right? And there's a great race where Tyson Gay is running and Asafa Powell is running with him. And Asafa Powell got a better start. And I think this is the one where Tyson Gay ran his 9.69, the fastest he ever ran. But he got a bad start. Asafa Powell, about 35 meters into the race, the footage isn't perfect, so it's hard to tell exactly, but you sort of see that he misses a step. And now the next step is not as productive and it's a catch up. And the next one's not as productive and it's a catch up. And Tyson Gay goes like, pass right by him because you have one step back there 10 steps earlier that didn't set up the next one. And sprinting is different than field sports, court sports, because in sprinting, you have to get to 5th gear. All the way up, can't stop, going as fast as you can. I'm building that for 70 meters if I'm good, right? So the court guy or the field guy or girl, they got to go fast now, right? And advance quickly where you're not building it up to what they have to build it up to.
Take us on out of here, Andrew.
Sure thing. Thank you, everybody, for checking out today's episode. We gave you plenty of things to talk about, so please drop those comments down below. Make sure you guys slap that like button and subscribe if you guys are not subscribed already. Follow the podcast at MB Power Project on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. My Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter is at I am Andrew Z. Nsima, where are you at?
Nsima Inyang on Instagram and YouTube, Nsima Inyang on TikTok and Twitter. Don't forget, go to the Discord in the description. Chris, where can people find you guys? And then David and Chris, where can people find you guys?
At the Pain Bible is on Instagram and YouTube.
He's eroding weakness. And who am I? I'm the David Weck, at the David Weck, and then weckmethod.com.
I got 2 tips for you guys today. Obviously, we got head over foot. I think that's really important. I've been practicing that in my running. It's been helpful. Been utilizing it when I walk as well. Every once in a while, I forget about it, then I think about it again. Incorporate it when I can. I think it'd be really useful for you guys. And the other tip is Chris came here a couple months back and showed us all just how to take care of ourselves. We already kind of knew. We know about foam rolling and stuff, and we know about myofascial release, but sometimes a kick in the pants from somebody can be really helpful, and that was really useful and helpful to us. It's not that often that we have guests that come in where we're actually participating and doing what they said, but all 3 of you guys, you've had an impact on us. These are things that we're carrying through. And so the myofascial release has been huge. Like I'm doing it at home. I got like a whole setup next to my bed. I got a setup next to my TV, where I had got softballs and lacrosse balls and all kinds of shit to try to make sure my shit doesn't get too stiff and make sure I'm not turning into magnesium overnight. So thank you guys both so much. I really just want to be somebody that advocates that out to other people. Some of these things are things that I previously thought were stupid. I was like, I don't understand why anyone would go to the gym and be all fired up to like lift, and then I don't know why you roll around the ground for. Fucking get yourself in the squat rack and get going. But now I got
Motility.
Now I got some different thoughts about it. I'm at Mark Smelly Bell. Strength is never a weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you guys later.